Herman Gref, CEO of Sberbank, Russia's largest bank. Thank you for joining us. This year has been no other for everyone. The coronavirus pandemic disrupted our everyday lives, and for companies, their operations and profits. And banks, of course, have been at the forefront of this, helping to keep the economy running. So I would like to start our conversation today by asking you how this has affected Sberbank. What was the biggest blow for Sberbank from the pandemic?
Спасибо большое за ваш вопрос.
Thank you very much for your question. This is probably the most unusual crisis that we encountered, all of us, and the blows to the Russian economy came along several tracks at once. First, this is certainly the sharp fall in the global demand, and Russia is well known to be an export-oriented country, so this gave a blow to all our export-oriented industries. Second, it is a contraction of the internal demand, primarily in the services sectors. Third, the household incomes plummeted. Fourth, the compulsory quarantine. And the main impact came on the 11 key industries, again, the services sectors. They were at the forefront of it. They found it going very, very tough during this period. And the banking sector was actually importing the crisis from the outside via our clients. The collapse in incomes of our individual clients led to us having to take urgent measures to restructure their loan obligations. The difficulties in the hardest hit 11 industries in the services sector again required us to give them extensions, and that obviously necessitated provisioning. We had to lower the credit quality, and right from March we started to build up provisions at an exceedingly high speed, and over the second quarter we provisioned fully in amounts sufficient, as it now turns out. And during the third quarter we rebounded to the normal track of income generation, and the fourth quarter has been showing the second wave, but it is nowhere near as deep as the one in April, May of this year. Then the GDP really collapsed. Industrial output down 10.7%. We are now seeing a fall that deep. On the whole, we are seeing that our expectations of the initial crisis were much more pessimistic than we are witnessing right now. In our assessment, the Russian economy will fall around somewhat below 4 percentage points. We played out various forecast scenarios. 7 to 12% is the expected decrease of GDP this year. And as for Sberbank, we put aside provisions required, and until the end of the year, no major volume of provisioning is going to happen on the scale we saw earlier this year. On the whole, we evaluate our performance to be not too bad, obviously in light of the major crisis I spoke about. For the banking sector, we will show a rather good result.
It's interesting that you say that the results and the situation in Russia is better than you expected originally. And I want to ask you about the net profit expectations. You have previously targeted 1 trillion rubles, which is about $13 billion in net profit for this year. This now may not happen because of the pandemic, but could you tell us how close do you expect to get to this magic number this year, and will you see it next year?
Well, we do not make forecasts regarding profit. You are right in saying that the only promise we will probably fail to deliver on to our clients over these 3 years, that's the 1 trillion rubles net profit promise. We would have fulfilled it 100% but for the pandemic. Though it's too early to forecast, it's still mid-November, there's 6 weeks left. we'll need to see how the crisis unfolds and how much more provisions we may need. But on the whole, we are happy with the course of events. This is the least of the worst that could have happened.
So going into 2021, which is not too far away at this point, what do you expect to be key drivers for the financial performance? And coming back to 1 trillion, how likely is that number to be achieved in 2021?
Our tentative assumptions place the economy generally on the growth path. The growth will be between 2.5% and 3.5%. It will be a recovery growth, and the way we see it, the economy will not yet rebound to the 2019 level. 2022 will probably be the year, again, if the vaccine, the medicines, and all the recent inventions in the area will help against the broad spread of the pandemic. Then by the middle of 2020 or by late 2020, the size of the economy will return to the 2019 parameters. And probably after that, one would be in a position to speak of a recovery in our earnings plan.
On the dividend front, despite difficult times, the Sberbank paid 50% of net profit as dividend this year. What is the outlook for dividends in 2021? And would you target a payout of more than 50%?
We proposed a new dividend policy to our supervisory board for the next 3 years, and this strategy was approved. We suppose that barring something extraordinary, like a new pandemic or some new black swans fluttering up, if the regulation is not changed by the central bank, if they do not introduce special add-ons for capital, then for the next 3 years we will be able to pay 50% of net earnings. So far we have not planned paying above 50% because, in all honesty, for us this is a major load. For us, 50% is. We are earning a rather sizable profit, and dividend income, say this year, was just above 8% for our clients. It would seem that we are one of the most unique companies in the market. We are pursuing a technological transformation. We can positively say that Sberbank today has become a tech company. We are entering new sectors of the economy, we are disrupting new industries, and at the same time, you will not give me a single example of another tech company that pays such dividends. And all of this is done, of course, from our earnings. In this sense, Sberbank is a unique company for the international market, and I hope our investors, this quick recovery of our capitalization, understand it and appreciate this quite well.
Thank you very much. You mentioned restructured loans earlier on, and I would like to ask you what share of those restructured loans, which are about 2.5 trillion rubles or $33 billion at the end of the third quarter, do you expect to become troubled, and how will you deal with this?
We expect that in all likelihood we will peak off at the end of this year, and starting from the first quarter next year, we will gradually downsize the volume of our NPLs, non-performing loans. But again, you always need to make this proviso. It will all depend on how the situation unfolds with the virus. But our current idea is that the peak is behind us, and that by the late next year we are highly likely to see normal figures in NPLs and the cost of risk in our portfolio, and starting from 2020 we will show our standard results.
Let's look at a wider picture for a little bit and turn to the economy. You mentioned that economic recovery has been faster than expected. And I would like to ask you about the central bank rates. Central bank keeps saying that they still have room to cut rates, but at the same time, it looks like they're pretty close to the end of the easing cycle. What would be your advice to the central bank chairman, Elvira Nabiullina? Should she cut more? And where would you like to see the bottom rate?
Вы знаете, я
You know, my evaluation of the central bank policy throughout this crisis period to be quite optimal. They have been working through this period as probably central bankers should. On the one hand, they provided all the necessary support measures. On the other hand, they have been pursuing a rather conservative policy while following pretty closely the situation in the market, primarily inflation. Today, inflation is elevated. It was certainly provoked largely by the weaker ruble, yet in this environment, such a conservative attitude towards further rate cuts is well-founded. But we assess the future potential of ruble as the one to strengthen. And if the oil prices rebound, so will the ruble. So then you could speak of further rate cuts. To me, it does not seem that the lower boundary of refinancing rate is upon us. But I do not expect this to happen very quickly, because you'll need to be maintaining a balance. Right now, the most important thing is not to relapse into historic figures. It's crucial to maintain the levels we have achieved, historically the lowest in Russia. We have never had key rates that low and ruble funds that available, and this generally has a very positive effect. We are seeing our foreign currency portfolios shrinking sharply. Companies have been increasingly financing their business in rubles, and their investment projects have been increasingly attractive in ruble rates, and this leads to the companies exposing themselves to much lower currency risks. And the currency risk was one of the main risks in our portfolios historically, and in portfolios of many investment companies.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of numbers, will we go below 4% in terms of key rate in your view? And what's your forecast for ruble for next year?
I would say that we have the potential to go below 4%. Probably not very deep to 3%, but below 4% we potentially can see it go. As for the ruble, I have said it many times, who can give a forecast today on the structure of our exports? What will the oil prices be? The general forecast is that the oil prices will recover. If that happens, then in all likelihood we will see a stronger ruble. But the current level of 75 rubles per dollar that's quite obvious that the ruble is manifestly oversold. It should strengthen. To what level, how the geopolitical situation will unfold, the pandemic, how that will unfold, and how the market will affect our main exports, no one can predict that today. The general trend, the way I see it, is a strengthening trend more than a weakening one.
Speaking of political risks, one of the reasons ruble has underperformed this year was the US election. And the assumption was that Joe Biden would be tougher on Russia than Donald Trump's administration. Are you concerned about additional sanctions now that Joe Biden won the election?
Вы знаете, 4 года назад у всех было ощущение,
You know, 4 years ago, everyone had this feeling that with the arrival of Donald Trump, our relations with the United States will flourish. Over the 4 years, we have seen the deepest degradation of these relations and huge sanctions packages against Russia. And one can say that all forecasts on this count have pretty much failed. I would not like to project the track our relations might take, Russia and the United States under President Biden. Biden does know Russia. He has been to Russia. He has, as an experienced politician, an idea about what this region is. He knows Europe very well, he knows CIS very well. So I really hope that the conversation will become perhaps more constructive, more civilized. There is every reason for it to do so. And today I would not really hamper myself with any projections, because such projections have failed so many times.
Thank you very much. I would like to pivot back to the coronavirus situation and the vaccines for a little bit again. And the banking sector will be changing, it looks like, after we emerge out of this. And to date, many CEOs of the banks have voiced their opinion on what the new reality might be on various issues, starting from working from home. Some say that they will make flexible working available for much of their staff. Some say that they prefer their staff back in the office. What's your position on that? And do you expect any changes in the way that the bank operates in terms of office space, number of branches, in the view of the post-pandemic realities that are coming up?
Во-первых,
Well, first, there are various positions for major retail banks and corporate banks and investment banks. For us, as the largest retail bank of the nation, it is quite impossible to start working by remote. 100%. We experimented with a number of closed branches, but whenever we shut down more than 50% of the branches, we started seeing long queues to our branches, and we had to expand the number of continuously operating branches. On the whole, we maintain about 75–80% of our branches open, retail branches. As for the our HQ, our headquarters, about 70% of the people were kept working by remote throughout this period of time, and we have been and we still are using the mixed working mode. Part of the people working by remote and part working in the office. And every week or every 2 weeks there is a rotation. Some rotate every 2 or 3 days. And this working mode really proved to be adequate. We have a relatively small number of cases relative to other organizations. We organized testing for 100% of our employees. Those who work every day are tested every morning. On the whole, we worked through this period without major difficulties. As for the changing world, I would say that what we are seeing right now, coronavirus really served as a catalyst for the world to change. I'm not seeing anything of the kind that would not be happening in the future anyway. Coronavirus simply accelerated all the pre-existing processes. As for us, our tech transformation really helped us here. We expanded our market shares in some products. For instance, mortgages. There was a period when we were the only bank giving out mortgages because we were the only bank that had the full process of disbursement of the mortgages, including the registration of the mortgages, all of that done by remote. And our share in this period really expanded. And we are seeing a sharp rise in usership of our remote products. We are having 100% of corporate products and about 99% of retail products for private individuals can be sold by remote. And this really drove people to study what can be done by remote. As for the branch numbers, we are not a classical bank in this sense. If we remained only a bank, then maybe we would have been shrinking our branch network. But today we do not want to do that, because these points of presence we need as part of our O2O business, online to offline. And today our offices increasingly sell ecosystem products. Not only banking products, but also ecosystem products. And this model we think to be the model of the future, so we do not expect a sharp decrease in branch numbers.
Thank you very much. In 2018, you said you wanted to build Russian Amazon. Do you think it's still possible for Sberbank? And if you were to undertake it, are you looking to buy a platform, or would you build a platform organically? And how much are you willing to spend?
Well, this is our third shot at the target here, and I will not reveal all our plans just yet. We have a clear plan about how we are going to do this, and this is one of the main objectives in the development of our ecosystem, just what we are going to present to our shareholders on the 30th of November at the Investor Day.
So how do your investors, out of whom I believe 40% are foreigners, view your current transformation that you are telling them about? What's investors' view on your new?
Well, you would be better off putting this question to investors themselves. But today we will report to our investors that pretty much all the goals in our 3-year strategy, we delivered on them. And the only parameter that we failed to deliver on was the 1 trillion rubles in earnings, but the pandemic was really the crucial factor here. We would have delivered on this item as well, but the main goal we had was the technological transformation. And I think we did it successfully. And you can fully call Sberbank a technological company today. And it was the tech transformation that allowed us to monetize our tech platform in other industries and capture the multiplier effects for the development of the banking business, among other things. If we had not done that, we would not have been speaking of any ecosystem. But we did this thing, and today our ecosystem is beginning to work as an ecosystem. The seamless provision of a large range of products to our clients, the products that they need in everyday life. And in this sense, I think that we have achieved our goal, and our investors hopefully are as happy about it.
Thank you very much. So I believe that some investors early on liked Sberbank as a very effective bank, a lender. How are they viewing your technological transformation? Sorry, I'll start again. I believe that some investors like Sberbank as a very effective bank. How do those investors feel about your current transformation? And what is your pitch to investors who want shares of either tech company or a bank company, but not a hybrid?
You know, I'll say this. If today it is not yet obvious for some people, tomorrow it will be obvious for everybody. There will not be any non-hybrids. Either banks will transform technologically or they'll die out. There is no other alternative. So if someone likes to be an investor in a company without any future whatsoever, it's hard to argue with that. Such investors can stay with such organizations. We would like to ensure we are 179 years of age as an organization, and my job as the CEO is to ensure that the next 179 years are as profitable and as efficient for the business I lead. So my investors feel secure and look into the future with tranquility and not offload my stock to invest in high-tech companies looking to protect themselves from conventional banking. I want them to be assured that no matter how the world changes, how the banking business model changes, Sber as an ecosystem, as a highly qualified technological company, will always transform itself to match the new objectives, new client needs, and always remain efficient and profitable as a company and pay them those dividends.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gref. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for speaking to Bloomberg.